I am ready. Welcome to the August 11th Seabrook School Board meeting. I have a checklist to ensure the meetings are compliant with the right to know law during the state emergency. As chair of the Seabrook School Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to executive order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the Seabrook School Board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following phone number, 646-876-9923, and the webinar ID 939-6082-2818, or by clicking on the following website address, which is on the agenda. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting using Zoom or telephonically. Instructions that have also been provided on the website of the SAU 21 office at www.sau21.org. If anybody has a problem, please call 603-926-8992, extension 103, or email at revans@sau21.org. In the event that the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting should be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. With each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting which is required under the right to know law. We'll now take the roll call.
Forrest Carter.
Here, Anna Malone.
Jennifer Hubbard.
Here with family.
Jessica Brown.
I am home with family in and out.
Kelly Huber.
Home with family in and out.
And Mike Rabideau.
Home with one other person.
I have the roll call taken.
Okay. We have opening public comment on agenda items. I think that given the way that most meetings go on Zoom, is that if you are a participant, you put your hands up and Rhonda will call you as you're listed. I think that at the end we'll have a public comment section about 15 minutes worth that's normally what's allowed for a meeting. So if you want to hold your comments till then, that would be fine. I don't see any at this point. Do you, Rhonda?
No, I don't see anybody with their hand raised at the moment.
Okay. All right. Let's go right to approval of the public meeting for June 9th, 2020. Do I have a motion to approve those?
I'll make that motion.
Oh, thank you, Jess. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to approve the June 9th, 2020 meeting minutes. Rhonda, please roll call.
Forrest Carter.
Yes.
Jennifer Hubbard.
Yes.
Jessica Brown.
Yes.
Kelly Huber.
Yes.
And Mike Rabideau.
Yes.
I have the vote recorded.
Thank you. And the second set of meeting minutes for August 7th, 2020. I need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Rhonda, please take a roll call.
Jennifer Hubbard.
Yes.
Jessica Brown.
Abstain.
Kelly Huber.
Abstain.
Mike Rabideau.
Yes.
And Forrest Carter.
Yes.
Thank you. Next is the finance report, please.
Good evening. So yes, we've included the year-to-date expenditure report for the fiscal year 2020-2021. We're 1 month in, so there's not a significant amount to report on. You'll see that most of the accounts have significant balances. I will note that the payroll, the salary accounts show large balances. This is due to the fact that most of our staff do not start until the end of August, September. So those have not been encumbered yet. There are a few accounts I just want to briefly review. The first of which is on page 5. You'll see that our new technology equipment under computer instruction is over budget by $21,000. This was part of our budget proposal this past spring, where we looked at accounts where we reduced them and increased this account for the purchase of Chromebooks for our remaining students and staff that do not have a device in the case that we do have to go to remote. Additionally, on page 7, you'll see under the buildings department, our water account is over budget by $8,000. And this is a function of the new Seabrook fee structure for water. So that has increased those costs, and we will have to budget accordingly in future years for that increased rate. We also have a new furniture account, which is over budget by $25,000. That will be reversed. That's simply a byproduct of our locker installation that was approved this past March. So as you know, there was a warrant article approved for the installation of new lockers in the middle school. That just hit this account. It will be reduced once we take that out of the building maintenance expendable trust to fund that expenditure. Finally, on page 10, you'll see under the interest and principal payments. This is an account that every year at the beginning of the year we are significantly over budget, and this is a byproduct of a QZAB loan. So we will be reimbursed through the IRS, this IRS program. So this will slowly go down as we proceed through the year, and eventually it should zero out. So that is not a real deficit. I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you may have.
I don't hear any questions. Dr. Lapini, next subject, continuing business.
Yes, so let me make a few introductory remarks and then turn it over to the people at your buildings who, and let me say this up front, they've done great work. And it's early. It doesn't feel early because we're down to under 5 weeks, but it's early in terms of putting together some of the pieces of these plans that they're going to go through you. And I guess what I would say, what I will end up saying at every school is that this is a work in progress. We're going to spend a lot of time on this as part of our retreat on Thursday, or our retreats, I guess I should call them, on Thursday, talking with your building level people about the plans, some of which you're going to see tonight. So let me mention a couple of other things. So first of all, we have a survey that just went out today to parents of, in your district's case, of students in pre-K through 4, but also is out to a number of other districts where we've identified an in-person model, and in-person models have been approved. That survey is designed to get commitments in terms of who's coming back. As we mentioned last week in the plans, that's a really important aspect for us to be able to make sure that we can meet certain parameters in terms of social distancing and all in classrooms. So we're paying really close attention to those data. And in fact, if people aren't able to fill out the survey, we're going to have to go to them because we really need a count on every student. So we've asked them, is it in person for you? Are you interested in the remote academy? Dr. Hobbs has done amazing work, including in there some descriptions of both of those, which incorporate a lot of what we talked about last week, but go a little bit further. And also your principals in buildings where we're going to do in person are going to be sending something out. And of course, there's things like the presentation here tonight. So we've given people till Monday. We think they'll have lots of information in order to make those decisions on whether they're in person or the remote learning academy. We've also sent out the calendar, the revised calendar for this school year, so that everybody has that as well. So we've given people through Monday, and again, we hope we get a lot of data. I will tell you, as of 4:30 this afternoon, and I don't know when it went out, but it wasn't that many hours ago, we have 211 responses out of the 900 individual students whose parents would receive this survey, because remember, it's not everyone. So we have 211 responses already. We have 85 Seabrook responses already. So this is great, right? It's a great start to gathering that data that we need in order to actually make the models work.
One second.
Sure.
Can you remind everybody when that deadline is?
The deadline is Monday, August 17th at 4 p.m.
Thank you.
Welcome, and we will send out a reminder. So the second thing I should mention in terms of what's changed in the area is that, as I mentioned to the board Friday night, Exeter Public Schools have gone completely remote for their school district, pre-K through 12. And as we talked about last week, and I'm sure you understand now, that the interrelatedness of our school districts means that's an issue that we have to deal with and see how it plays out for our employees. So I've been asked a lot since last week about metrics and the 2 weeks that I think we spoke about. And people are asking me, what does that metric look like? And we're not there yet. We don't have that created yet. But what we know is here are some examples of things that will be in those metrics that we'll report out on to the public as we try to get more and more into school, whether that's at the middle level where you're going to start with the enhanced remote, or wherever it is. As we look to move toward having kids in school, we're going to look at things like, can we increase over the initial weeks of the school year? Can we constantly increase the numbers of students that we're able to bring in for small group kinds of activities? Because remember, part of the plan was to start with groups coming in for remediation, enrichment, art classes, other kinds of things. We want to be able to increase that as the weeks go by. We're going to pay close attention, and there are a couple good metrics out there of what are the positive testing rates in terms of the virus in the area in Rockingham County. We're going to look at nurse data, because one of the things that we said to you last week was that we can't actually make this plan work if people don't stay home if they're sick and or keep their kids home if they're sick. The plan will not work. We're seeing evidence of that already all over the country. And we'll look at those accommodations that we put in place, both for students and for employees, and whether we can begin to bring more of those students back to the environment. So we're planning to make a metric out of all that, and I'm sure a number of other pieces that we'll add to it. And I've been asked by parents, will we make that public? Will that to be a public discussion? And the answer is absolutely. We absolutely, positively are going to do that. And I would guess we'll have that in place, ready to start talking about in terms of what exactly goes into that in the next couple of weeks, but certainly by the beginning of the school year. So with that, I want to say thank you to Stephanie and to Aaron and to Jessica, and I see Lauren there, and I know Mark and Cindy also had a hand in the beginnings of these pieces. And so Aaron or Stephanie, I'm not sure who wants to go first. Aaron, she says Aaron wants to go first. Okay.
Oh, I do? Okay.
Let's
sure.
That's what Stephanie said anyhow.
Mine's a little perhaps less complicated, so I don't mind. Rhonda, I can just share my screen?
I believe you can. I believe that when I made you a co-host, you should be able to do that. If not, let me know.
Did that work?
That worked.
Okay. So we've been working on plans. I wanted to share just first what a schedule, this is a very much draft form, but a schedule that was created in the spring and we've adjusted a little bit for our building would look like. I wanted people to understand, I mentioned it on Friday as well, but just that remote learning for us in the fall is going to look very different than it did in the spring. We learned a lot. We've taken what we've learned and we're making adjustments to make it a more true school day for students that has a schedule that they are expected to follow. Starts at 8 in the morning with advisory. We're doing a lot of work around the social emotional learning pieces with kids and using our advisory block to really focus on making good connections with students, small groups, with staff, and starting the day. We've met twice already to come up with what the plans will look like for that. We've got an amazing team working on that and just really overall a dedicated staff to the social emotional learning piece of school and to help our kids feel successful in this remote environment. What it would be is 3 blocks of instruction on an A day and a B day essentially. So there will be 6 total blocks of instruction and each day, so Monday would be an A day, you would have 3 of your blocks, Tuesday would be a B day, you would have 3 of the other 3 blocks, and that would repeat for Wednesday, Thursday. There are significant amounts of time which would allow the teachers to have some instruction for the whole group and then give time for pulling some individual students in some small groups to do some work, give students some independent time, come back, share what they're working on. It will really be, it's synchronous and it will be as close to what it would look like in the regular classroom as we can be. And we believe that having larger blocks and having students only have to worry about 3 classes a day is going to help them to be more successful with that. The end of the day, this is not in the schedule because it's hot off the presses and we just met, would also be a check-in again with that same advisory group, that smaller group with staff, and allow students to check in. There'll be some reflection on the day. We'll be doing some other activities. So those are still in the works. And then there's a time right now, what we call flex, which gives potentially the time for teachers to do some reteach with students, give students extra time to ask questions, and just allow for, again, students to feel more successful. That's our goal, is to help students feel more successful and to help them feel connected and engaged and to get up every day and start their day and go through a schedule so that it's not too open-ended and students can, they'll know exactly what classes they have, what days, and they'll know what their work is, and hopefully we'll see a lot more success with that. That gives Friday as a day to catch up, some more opportunity with teachers to ask questions, to get some extra help, and also gives teachers time to plan with each other and plan for the instruction. I'm just going to move on. I just really have 2 slides because I knew that the schedule was going to be a big piece that people were curious about, but also that we have a lot of things in the works that I can talk a little bit about, but we have a lot more to come. As Dr. Lupini alluded to, this is certainly a work in progress. But just the current planning we're doing and the priorities we have are these next bulleted items. We will be working on providing a time for what I will call a meet and greet. Certainly one of the challenges we're facing is starting a new year, having not getting a chance to meet, teachers getting a chance to meet the students in person and vice versa. So we'll be working out a plan where in small groups, we can bring students to the school outside because the weather's going to be great and meet their teachers. At least just have a face-to-face interaction, socially distanced, masks would be needed, all of that, but just so that they can feel like their first interaction with their teacher is not through a computer screen. So we're working on what that might look like. And with all of this, we'll get information out just as quickly as we can so that people have time to plan. There is a plan for some students to be in the building. That plan is not ironed out, but we know that there are students who will need perhaps for some additional services, students who really just struggled with remote learning in the spring and weren't able to access it for a variety of reasons, things like that. We're working out what that could look like. And I don't anticipate that that will necessarily start the first week of school, because we'll want to make sure that we're underway, but we'll be working to bring students back. We're working on what transportation can look like and trying to figure out all of those logistics to safely bring some students back. And as Dr. Lupini said, that's our goal, is to continue to bring students in to the extent that we're able to, so that they can access some other learning and supports in school. Teachers will be working to continue to improve their instructional practices remotely with digital resources. That a lot of teachers have been working all summer just researching and finding new ways that they can do instruction should they be remote. So I would say that we have a lot of teachers who were not hoping that this was going to be how we started, but we're preparing for it. And just working towards how we can support students the best. And, I can't say enough about all of our staff and how they got into teaching for a reason, and it's because of the students. So they're dedicated to making that work. I mentioned the social emotional learning because that's the committee that's working on our advisory is really kind of spearheading social emotional learning in the school. And we are focused on different aspects of that, how we can make those connections. I don't mean to be repetitive, but I know a lot of the concern is about those connections, and we will focus on that to make that the priority. Regular support and contact with parents and guardians, just checking in, asking how we can support. We had a lot of that in the spring. Our staff worked very hard to make those contacts, and we'll continue to make sure that parents and guardians can feel that regular interaction and know where they can go if they have questions and feel supported, because we know that they'll be home struggling with their students from time to time, and we want to make sure that they know that they can get some help with that as well. And also just a little nitty gritty, we will of course bring students back to, and it may coincide with that meet and greet, but to pick up Chromebooks because they'll need their devices back. Most students were great about returning the Chromebooks so they could be gone over in the summer and made sure that they're working well, and you'll get a device back at that time. So that's kind of where we sit today. We'll have more answers tomorrow and the next day and the next day, and we're doing our best to make sure that this is a great experience, or as good an experience as it can be for all students.
Thanks, Erin.
Sure.
All right, you can see my slides now, right? Okay. First, I just want to thank everybody who's been involved in the process, because it's been an ever-changing process, and everybody's been rolling through it and working very hard. So thank you to the SAU and the school board, the parents and community, to the staff, and to Erin and the rest of the admin team for working in a joint building with two schools. There's a lot that we've had to talk through and figure out, and couldn't ask for better partnerships in this work. So thank you. Just want to start with the guiding principles. So my presentation, I'm trying to focus on kind of more of the nitty-gritty details, but for many of you that tuned into the joint board presentations and last week's presentation, there's been a lot of different information shared. And so what I'm looking to do is to do kind of a shortened presentation tonight, and we'll have a more comprehensive that kind of ties all those pieces in. So for instance, we've already gone over safety protocols and cleaning and disinfecting and health screening pieces. And so we'll be doing a recorded presentation with all those pieces, trying to tie it all into one, and we will be sharing that out with families so that you have that all in one place. So our guiding principles you see here, and that's been led by the SAU office, and our task force team was really focusing on safety, equity, wellness, and teaching and learning. And our return to school model for the elementary is to provide in-school learning with some restrictions, and with the remote learning academy option. So some of the challenges I want people to realize that we face in this model is that just the evolving nature of the pandemic and the changing and updated guidance. We're constantly learning more, as you know, about the virus and what best practices are around it. So we're constantly trying to stay on top of that and have some great working groups focusing on different aspects. Also, the challenging nature of addressing student and staff illness protocols, trying to make sure that everyone is safe. The uncertainty of plans of neighboring school districts, especially those that our staff live in with school-aged children, and trying to see what everyone is doing around us. Anticipated leaves of absence among our employees for health and childcare issues. Limited funding to implement everything that we would want to have in place. For instance, a permanent nurse substitute, permanent teacher substitutes, increased transportation to do a split schedule, anything like that. We're trying to work within our means. And planning over the summer without our full staff. I have to say, anytime I've called on the staff to meet, they've just drop of a hat can meet. But it's, you know, it's really, it is their summer. So I appreciate all the time that people have put in to work with us. So the importance of the survey, I had here that sending it out, but the SAU is so quick with everything. It's been great. They got it out today. So that survey is out, and I cannot emphasize how important it is to do those, to complete those surveys and submit them as soon as possible so that we know the numbers that we're working with. We had only approximately half of our parents and guardians fill out the survey the last time when we were trying to get a sense of where people were in their comfort level coming back. But we really need 100% so that we can plan accordingly. With the social distancing guidelines, our classroom capacity is approximately 11 students per classroom, trying to maintain that 6-foot distance between students. So we need to know how many students we anticipate coming in, how many students we anticipate being remote, and make sure we have the related staff. Some general information and protocols. We've gone over some of this, but masks required for students and staff when indoors, except when eating. So any, eating or drinking, obviously we'll have to remove the masks. Masks may be removed outside with 6 feet distancing, and students and staff are asked to bring their own masks, but we will have disposable surgical masks available as well. And for even the eating, we're gonna try to be outside as much as possible. Everyone will need to do a self-screening at the beginning of the day and are required to report any concerns and any positive tests of COVID for themselves or other household members. Outside mask breaks and movement breaks will be scheduled so that we make sure the kids are having those breaks as well as the adults. And classrooms will be arranged, like I said, approximately 10 to 12 students so that we're sitting 6 feet apart, trying to face all in the same direction. And we've been able to order some plexiglass dividers, kind of these little trifold pieces that can be put to separate at tables, and where we will probably be borrowing some furniture from the middle school too to help separate students even further. And students will eat in the classroom or outside for breakfast, snack, and lunch. We will not be congregating in the cafeteria as much as we can avoid. We may have small groups in there if we need to, but we will be mostly containing in the classroom. And we are purchasing tents and arranging outdoor spaces for learning. Students are asked to limit personal items that are brought into the school and keep them in their backpack whenever possible, just for reducing the germs. So even students' coats, put them in their backpack, not bring a lot of extra supplies and things like that. We want to make sure that what we have we can easily clean and keep students' items together. We will have a modified fire and safety drill plan per the Homeland Security and Emergency Management Office and the New Hampshire Department of Ed guidelines. They have provided a modified schedule and parameters for that. And unified arts classes will be held outdoors or in the homeroom classes with the main teacher instructing live or virtually. So this is basically if students are assigned to, say, Mrs. Valentine's homeroom class, they will spend the majority of their day in that class and outside. And instead of students circulating through, usually our unified arts team would see approximately 360 students going through their classroom. And to minimize that, walking through the hallways and all those different groups using the same space, we are bringing the unified arts to them either virtually, in person, in the classroom, or outside. So we're working on schedules for that. And students will follow floor markings. We have lines that we've been using for years down the hallway to keep students, traffic flow to the right. But also we've put 6-foot markings to just help for that visual reminder for students to keep that spacing. And bathroom use will be monitored to try to minimize, trying to keep to approximately 2 students in our collective bathrooms that have 4 to 5 stalls. And preschool and kindergarten, for those that aren't aware, do have their own bathrooms in the classrooms. The school day overview, we're looking at beginning at approximately 8 o'clock, which we usually would have people start dropping off at 7:45, but I think we'll be looking at trying to do some kind of staggering. So maybe getting the students off the buses first and then having the drop off. We may have to stagger the drop off because we know that there will be many people wanting to drive students instead of participating in the bus. So we may have to stagger that possibly by alphabet of last name to space that out to expedite that for everybody. And then we're looking right now, this is tentative, looking at ending at approximately 1:30. So it would be a slightly shortened day. What we're looking at is for our planning time and meeting time for teachers. Right now, our usual schedule is when students go to their art class, the art teacher has that group and that frees up the other teacher for their meetings and their planning. But where we're trying to limit cohort kind of exposure and limit travel time and limit people, working across multiple classrooms, we're looking at ending early so that we don't have to provide those reliefs during the day and change out the adults that are with children and intermixing. So we're trying to maintain those cohorts. So ending at 1:30 will definitely help solve a lot of those issues. And we're looking for right now to have no C-STARS after school programming for at least the start of the year. Usually we have, say, 2 classrooms for our 3rd grade, and we mix all the groups after school for that. And we want to maintain our cohort, so we would not be doing that at this point, but we're looking at possible alternatives, and we will reassess that as the year continues because it's a great program and we want to get that back on track as soon as possible. So arrival and dismissal procedures, I won't get into the details of this. This is very kind of draft, but just to give you a gist of maybe staggering that drop off and dismissal and having different grade levels use different entrances to try to spread it out, get people to maintain the 6-foot distance, but still expedite people getting in and out of the building. For instruction, students would be assigned, like I said, to their homeroom. All kindergarten and 4th grade will be assigned their own Chromebook. So in the spring, we did not have enough devices to provide every single student in kindergarten through 2nd grade devices. But we have increased our plan, and thank you for the board support and the SAU support in moving forward to getting a Chromebook device for kindergarten through 4th grade. And then we will have iPads available for the preschool students as needed. Those will go back and forth home each day. So if, for instance, if we have a heat index day that, it's too hot for us to be in session and we're called to work remotely from home, students will have their devices. So that gets to the curriculum and instruction. The teachers are currently working on developing lessons in this online platform. So similar to what some classrooms had in the spring, so that if a student is out sick, they might still have access to the worksheets and some of the lessons and some of that information from the day. And we could easily pivot to a remote situation for an individual or group or whole school if we needed to. So we'll have that platform and there'll be some consistency. Parents can be familiar with it. So we're looking forward to having that in place. And of course, we'll have appropriate supports for students that have IEPs or 504 plans. Also, we're trying to assign additional staff as much as possible into the homerooms. So there's some consistency. If a teacher is out, there might be another person that normally works in that room and they can step in. Also just trying to work in smaller groups with the students, knowing that, that springtime we weren't able to do a lot of that. So trying to get that back up and going. The daily schedule will have modifications based on all of what I said and trying to avoid those larger groupings. We purchased a lot of online subscriptions for students. Some families might be familiar with IXL, a program we used last spring. We'll have that for every student across the school. There'll be different programs that we'll be doing school-wide. So we hope that we're trying to minimize the different logins and the different platforms so that it's streamlined for families, and we'll provide a lot of information for that to help people engage and be familiar with what we're doing. And we will be moving from our traditional emailed or sent home report cards to Power School and having electronic access to that. And we'll be providing individual supplies, crayons, scissors, glue sticks, all of that as much as possible with the students who are sanitizing the items in between. We won't be using a lot of manipulatives, counting cubes and things like that. We'll be able to do that a lot with our devices as well. And recess, some people have asked in terms of, well, will my kids see their friends in another class at recess? They will see them outside, but we'll still be maintaining those cohorts for safety reasons. Specialized services, I'd like to turn it over to Jessica Parsons. For those of you who haven't met her, she joined us in July, and she is the Director of Special Services for both schools. And it's a pleasure to have her on board, and unique time to start, but she has just rolled up her sleeves and dug right in. She's been a great support. So she's going to talk a little bit about the specialized services, whether in person or remote. So Jessica?
Good evening. Thank you, Stephanie. Hi, everyone. I just want to say I'm very excited to be here and to be working for the families and students and staff of the Seabrook community. And I look forward to meeting many of you over the next several months. Wanted to start with just talking about that we want to continue to provide the needed services for our students even through the adaptation of the different instructional models, and that we're continuously planning and collaborating with staff and administration to ensure that we're going to be able to meet the needs of students given their unique circumstances or disabilities. And so we really are looking to prioritize in-person services and supports for students based on their needs and their individualized help and access, and making sure that they have access to the specially designed instruction and related services that are outlined within their individual plans. That includes support from educational associates, as well as speech and language professionals, occupational therapists, physical therapy, counselors, and behavioral support. And so we'll coordinate those in small group settings, as well as offering opportunities for families who do not prefer to access in-person services, that will also continue to offer these services in a remote manner for families, again, that aren't accessing the in-person services. Thank you, Stephanie. So we are going to look to minimize the amount of, I guess, touch points of between staff and students. And so we're looking to work with those cohorts of kids and ensure that we're safely providing those services, whether it's in a small group setting or within the classroom. Our IEP and 504, any parent meetings, we're going to continue to hold virtually as much as possible, but we also are understanding of those families that may need to come in person. And so we'll work with those families to ensure that we can make sure that they're able to access those meetings. We're going to also continue with the evaluation for special education and 504s, and we hope to continue to hold those in person. We've purchased several tabletop plexiglass dividers, which we've already been using as part of the evaluation process. We're also going to be purchasing more of those to ensure that we can use those for some of the direct services for students. We know that many of our students are learning how to read or learning how to do math. And so that might be difficult with a full mask on, just like the evaluations. And so we're looking to use the tabletop plexiglass in order for the students and staff members to be able to see each other's mouths and be able to really hear the sounds that are coming out of their mouths, as well as being able to view through the plexiglass how students are manipulating certain things. So really being mindful about how the mask could impact services for kids, and trying to build in support so that they're able to see and hear appropriately. Additionally, yesterday afternoon, the Special Services Office sent out an email to all families who have students on plans, asking if they would their plan for compensatory education services. And in that email, it outlined a couple of different options, whether you would like to meet within our 30-day window, whether you would like to hold off so we can collect more data, whether you'd not like to meet, or if you'd like to have somebody contact you. And so thank you to all the families that have taken the time to fill out that survey. As soon as we collect the results, we'll be reaching out to families to schedule those meetings and to also be answering questions. I also want to just let everybody know that I'm in the office and I am available to answer any questions or meet with any families who have concerns about their students' plan or services for the upcoming year. My email address is jparsons@sau21.org. So please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I really, really want to hear from you, and I really want to work with you to ensure that we're doing the best to provide services for your students.
And
Thank
Jessica,
you.
can I just ask before you go on, Stephanie?
Sure.
Everything that you've said here apply, even though it won't be face-to-face at the beginning of the year, in terms of students coming in terms of evaluations, pretty much everything you've included here is the case at the middle school as well.
Yes, I've been working directly with the middle school administration team, and they have included me in the schedule planning so that for the students that we are prioritizing to have in-person services in the middle school, we've been able to adapt the master schedule to allow for services in person to happen in the afternoon, which would not impact their inclusion within the remote classes they have in the morning. So we're looking to almost create a small group cohort of kids that need in-person services at the middle school to happen in the afternoons. And we're looking to figure out how we can coordinate transportation for families so that those students can access those services. Again, if families don't feel comfortable having their students come in, we're going to provide those services in a remote manner as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jessica.
You're welcome.
So another strong component of this, and Erin Milbury spoke about this with the middle school too, is that social emotional piece. And, we know that students have been, not engaged in their regular ways with us for months now. And we know that just getting back into our regular routines is going to be a big lift. So we are really going to focus a lot on social emotional learning and emphasizing that, especially for the first 6 weeks. We'll have a specific plan to really work on developing those classroom cultures and working with the students on getting them back on track, supporting any emotional and social needs that have developed, and just getting people back to where, they feel engaged. So more to come on that, but we are definitely looking at different things like providing opportunities in the classroom for more learning on this topic, engaging students in activities, assigning each staff member. We've talked about having each staff member have a small group of students and families that they would just touch base with. So no matter the structure, we have been planning on that, whether we ended up being remote or in person, so that people have a touch point and students have a person that they're a little bit closer to and feel like they can reach out to if they're struggling or need some extra support. And we'll also be offering families online support on different topics focused on social emotional learning. And just an important piece is we'll continue our partnership with Seacoast Mental Health. They provide some counseling services one-on-one for students and some supports for us as a school. And they will continue their services with our families and our school, which is great. Orientations and ongoing communications. Last slide. So we will be looking, as Erin said, trying to get some in-person connections between staff and students and families. We realize that, this is unique for preschool and kindergarten entering families, and we want to make sure that you can come see the school and you can come meet the staff. And we'll just have to do things with social distancing and some smaller groupings. We also realize that there's new students throughout our school, not just at those entry-level grades. And we want to make sure that they have a proper orientation to our school and that we get to know a little bit more about them. We'll have regular communication. We will be doing trainings on the items I have listed here, plus more, to make sure that people are well aware on how we can work in a partnership to support the students. And parent conferences, we will definitely, the plan is to hold those virtually for the fall. So we'll be scheduling those once school gets up and running. So again, thank you for your time. We will do, like I said, we have much more on the safety protocols, what happens if somebody goes to the nurse and all of that. And we'll provide those details in a recorded video so everybody has that in one place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do any of the board members have questions at this time? I saw a couple of questions from the audience.
I took care of those.
Okay, yeah, I saw those, right. Do you want to open up the public comment at this point, or you want to wait till later?
Just, can I ask one question real quick?
Sure.
Could we just get kind of an idea of how much live teaching, like I know it's going to be through the computer, but how many hours per day can they expect if they're remote?
You're talking about the middle level, Jessica, or the remote learning academy at the elementary?
So like the remote learning either way, but whether it be, you know, elementary or middle,
Sure.
what can parents expect? How many hours per day can they expect like a live classroom? I guess.
Got it. Dr. Hobbs or Ms. Milbury, do you want to answer that?
Sure, I can answer. So based on that schedule, they would have 3 blocks a day that are right now 90-minute blocks, and they would have access to their teacher for the entire 90 minutes if they needed that. So the teacher wouldn't necessarily be delivering the lesson that whole time, but that teacher would be on the computer and available just like they would be in the classroom. So they might go off and do some independent work, but they had questions. The teacher would still be on that Google Meet, and they would be able to just ask that question or pop in and do some work together.
Thanks.
Any other questions at this point?
You asked me a question though that I didn't answer for you, which I'd like to
Oh.
try to do. It's really your pleasure. I mean, we have a couple of other new business items, and then we have need of a non-public for a couple of items. You're the chair. It's your pleasure.
Well, I think that as the presentation was going on, you had answered 2 of the questions that came up from the audience. So I think that should be adequate this time, and we can move on. And if something comes up, then it comes up. How's that?
Okay.
On to the school board audit questionnaire.
Mr. Farrar?
Thank you. So, as you know, we do conduct an audit on an annual basis. That is, we do contract with Plodzik and Sanderson as the outside auditor. And as part of that audit process, they do ask for the board to complete a questionnaire based on the financial controls for the organization. So I'm going to run through the questions on the audit questionnaire, and I ask that the board answer them verbally as we move through. So the first question is, do you have any knowledge or suspicions of fraud affecting your entity?
No, that I know of.
Have you received any communications from employees, former employees, regulators, or others alleging fraud?
None that I'm aware of.
Have you identified any specific risks of fraud within your entity?
No.
Has the board adopted a universal code of ethics for members and employees to follow?
Yes, we have.
And there is a copy that we have included. Have you or any related party of yours had any interest, direct or indirect, in any of the following transactions or pending or incomplete transactions since July 1 of 2019 to which the school district, SAU, or any retirement savings, pension, or other similar plan was or is to be a party? The first item is the sale, purchase, exchange, or leasing of property.
No.
Receiving or furnishing of goods, services, or facilities.
No.
Transfer or receipt of income or assets.
No.
Maintenance of bank balances as compensating balances for the benefit of another.
No.
Any other transactions?
No.
Does the board formally authorize all disbursements, both vendor and payroll, prior to the release of funds?
Yes, we do.
Describe how the board stays informed of the latest changes in the laws and regulations pertaining to the entity. So typically we'll inform you through the superintendent and the SAU office. Is that, would you agree with that sentiment?
Yes.
Does the board review comparative reports of estimated and actual revenues and appropriations and expenditures?
Yes, on a monthly basis.
What procedures does the board follow in reviewing or using these reports? For example, does the board normally meet with the department heads as part of this process? Also, does the board review both the revenue and expenditure reports?
Both revenue and, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, continue.
Both revenue expenditure reports reviewed monthly at board meetings by the business administrator.
Yeah, so that would that's exactly what I reviewed earlier this evening, was the expenditure report, and that is on a monthly basis. The revenue report, we didn't review this month because it's the first month and that there really is no revenue at this point in the year, but we will start reviewing those revenue reports as well, probably in the next month's board meeting. So has the board approved a disaster recovery plan in the event of loss or interruption of the IP function?
Yes.
Is there a written investment policy adopted?
Yes, there is. It was adopted on October 22nd, 2019.
Have you adopted the use of either debit or credit cards by employees?
Yes, we have.
Does the board have knowledge of any funds or bank accounts that are not in the custody of the treasurer?
Yes, we do. We have the Student Activity Fund, which is Aaron Milbury and Stephanie Lafreniere, principals, and the expendable trust funds, Seabrook Trust of the trust funds.
Has the board approved a fund balance policy in compliance with GASB 54?
Yes.
Does the school district SAU have knowledge of any crowdfunding activities? And if so, please indicate what they are, on what website they are maintained, and who's responsible for them. So, so this past year, actually it came through the SAU, but we did establish a GoFundMe account, and that was for the food service programs during the pandemic to offer free meals to our
Not
students.
be distributed until 2020-21.
That is correct. Are there any other crowdfunding activities that the board is aware of beyond that one?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Since the World Health Organization's declaration of the worldwide pandemic due to the coronavirus COVID-19, how has the board adapted to making financial decisions, reviewing budget versus actual reports, and approving vendor and payroll manifests?
All of the board meetings have been held via the Zoom format, and financial reports are uploaded through board docs for review. We're utilizing DocuSign electronic signature software for purchases. All manifests, which are payroll and accounts payable, are scanned and sent to board members for signatures. All backup document is supplied.
Thank you very much. So what I will do is I will load these answers, this questionnaire, into DocuSign and submit to the board chair for his signature, and we'll submit that to the auditor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt.
Hey, Mr. Rabideau, before you go on to the extracurricular stipends, Stephanie, I had a question that was posed that you may not even be there on this issue yet, but it was around what can we expect of times for the preschool as a result of these shifts in times. Again, you may not be there yet. That may be something you're going to have to get back to people on, but it was a question I heard.
Yeah, thank you for that question. We actually are meeting with our preschool team this Thursday, Jessica and I, to go over the specialized programming. We realize that there's some different groupings within our work. So we'll be looking at what that day structure looks like, and it could be a little bit different. We're not sure. So more to come on that, and we'll get those details out to families as soon as possible.
Thank you. My apology for interrupting, Mr.
Right, we're good. The next item is the extracurricular stipend committee update.
Yeah, so per the 2019-2023 collective bargaining agreement with C, our teachers union, an extracurricular stipend committee is called on to be formed on an annual basis. And the purpose of this committee is to review the extracurricular stipends, determine if any adjustments are warranted, and then make recommendations to the school board for approval. So that committee was formed earlier this year in July, and did meet. And after convening, the committee does recommend a few changes, including the adjustment of the drama stipend from $1,098 to $1,723. And this is to more accurately align with other comparable stipends. So what we do is we take a look at the time commitment, number of students for each stipend, and then try to align the costs based on that responsibility. We're also suggesting the addition of an assistant track stipend of $862, and this is based on increased participation. And in turn, we're looking to remove the cheerleading stipend of $1,242, which is based on a lack of participation. So the total cost of these adjustments is a net of $245. So it's a pretty minimal increase, and we are looking for the board for approval for these changes. I'd be happy to answer any questions in regard to these recommendations.
Do any board members have questions on the stipend? I'll take a motion to approve the stipend as shown on the August 11th, 2020.
I'll second.
Was Jen first? No? I only heard the second. I didn't hear the first.
Yeah, I didn't hear the first
I'm sorry,
either.
I thought you made that motion. I'll make that motion to accept.
Thank you. Do I have a second, please?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. It was Kelly. Great. I have a motion and a second to approve this. No further discussions. Rhonda, would you please take a roll call?
Jessica Brown,
Yes.
Kelly Huber,
Yes.
Mike Rabideau,
Yes?
Forrest Carter.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Forrest, I didn't hear you.
Sorry, yes.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer Hubbard,
Yes.
I have the vote recorded.
Thank you very much. Dr. Lupini?
Well, what we have left are some personnel issues related to ratifications of hiring decisions made during the summer. So it's again your pleasure. We really don't have, well, we have those items to potentially act upon after a non-public, but you know, we can, you can take some comments if that's what you wish, and then do the non-public. That might be the best way to do this.
All right. I'll open this to the public comment. We have a number of individuals out there watching this meeting at the time. Are there any individuals? Please raise your hand via the Zoom participant if you'd like to have a comment or a question.
I do have someone that raised their hand, Mike. I will give them permission to talk. And just so that participants know, or attendees in the audience, whenever you do speak, you just need to state your name, your first name and last name, and your address and your affiliation with the school, whether you have a student in the school or whether you're a teacher or whatever your connection is. So I'm going to let Leanne talk. And Leanne, if you could just provide us with your information. Leanne, you had your hand raised and I've given you permission to talk, but I think you have yourself on mute. Are you there? Leanne, are you there? Did you want to say something to the board?
I think we've had this in the past where someone hits the raise your hand and doesn't turn it off. So that may be the case.
Okay, I'm going to put her back out in the audience. I'm going to lower her hand and put her back out in the audience. And then if she does want to speak, maybe she'll raise the hand again if it was intended.
That's the only individual at this time.
Yeah, I don't see any others at the moment.
All right, I'll close the public comment then. And moving on, Dr. Lupini, do you want to, we have the two meetings coming up. The Joint Board Policy Committee meeting is Wednesday, August 26, 2020 at 4:30, and also the school board regular meeting is next Tuesday, well, on Tuesday, September 8th at 4:30. So
On our first day of school.
that's the one. So now I'll take a motion to.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I see that Leanne has raised her hand again, so I believe she does intend to make a comment. Hopefully we can hear her this time. I'm going to bring her back in.
Okay, please.
Hi,
Leanne?
I'm Lee.
Hi, can you just state your full name and your affiliation with the school?
Yes, Leanne Kierstead, and I am a mother of a elementary school student and a middle school student.
Leanne, do you mind spelling your last name for me? I just don't see it to be able to document it in the record.
Sure. Kierstead.
Thank you.
So my question is about the SAS. Just my first Zoom call, so bear with me. So I don't know if there was talks about having that access again. I know they did a summer program, which was fantastic, by the way. I just didn't know if there's any more information on that.
So thank you for the question. It's a great question. So we are in these models talking about how we can incorporate a number of our partners. SAS would be included, Northampton, it's their rec department, also the YMCA. So we're still trying to figure out exactly how we sort of bring them into the work that we're doing. That's not a piece that we've really started on, but I would guess within the next week we'll have something to say about that.
Leanne, is that your only question?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, I keep asking me if he wants to mute. The other question was the rec center for Seabrook, New Hampshire. If there's any plans on after school for them?
So we've actually we've been talking over the summer with the town administrator in particular, Mr. Farrar and I. He actually reached out to the rec director off of those conversations with the town administrator. And again, it's just another one of those things we have to figure out how we do it, whether they're going to be open, what their hours are going to be, what their protocols are, all those kinds of things. But a number of these sort of what I would consider to be community partners, two of which you've mentioned now, we have every intention of trying to find ways to make some sort of programming continue to work together between the schools and those programs.
Well,
I'll just say we've had continued
conversations.
conversations with the rec. I had a conversation today and shared that with Aaron, just making sure that we're all on the same page and that we're thinking of any possible options to try to engage our students. So we're going to continue those conversations, and it's a great partnership, and they want to make sure that they're supporting the work that we do, and we want to make sure that we're supporting the whole community.
So as a parent, of course, with two kids, I work about an hour away. So I work up in Manchester. So me getting, them to be in school and figuring out a plan to do this, is great because I'm gone for, 12 hours a day.
Yep.
So I really appreciate what you guys are doing.
We understand these programs, these partnerships are really important, and we're going to figure out a way to make sure they're in place and that we do so safely. So yes, thanks for your question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leanne. Okay, that
Is
closes.
that a commercial there, Mr.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
You would almost think that I planted that question. That was perfect, right?
Great. Okay, at this time, I'll take a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91-A:3 sub 2 A-E. Correct?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Have a second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jen. Have a motion and second. Please take a roll call. Rhonda? You're muted.
So I have Jessica making the motion and Jen seconding it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Forrest Carter?
Yes.
Okay. Jen Hubbard?
Yes.
Jessica Brown?
Yes.
Kelly Huber?
Yes.
And Mike Rabideau?
Yes.
I have the motion recorded.
So we've done this a number of different ways. What I would say to the attendees is the group, the school board is now going to go into non-public. They will come out and potentially vote on these personnel issues, and that will be the conclusion of the meeting. So I know, David, I'm looking at you. I know I said maybe we could do it the way we've traditionally done it, but I don't know about the process of moving 40 people. It may be easier to go to another Zoom call if people do want to hang around for those personnel items.
Sure. Under pressure, I can set up a new meeting. I think 40 attendees is a lot to bring over and then put on mute. So I'll go ahead and send out a separate email invite to all the board members for a non-public Zoom. Does that make sense for everybody?
Great. And Rhonda, you'll keep this one open so we have a place to come back to. Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, you guys should be receiving that shortly. And I will start that meeting to get over there.
Thank you, David.
Yep.
Or from non-public?
Make the motion.
Thank you. I need a second, please.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Forrest. I have a motion and a second. Rhonda, would please take a vote?
Kelly Huber,
Yes.
Mike Rabideau,
Yes?
Forrest Carter,
Yes.
Jennifer Hubbard,
Yes.
and Jessica Brown.
Yes.
I have the vote recorded and the meeting resumed at 5:50 p.m.
Thank you. Now we are at the recommendations for what we've discussed non-public. The first one, Bill, do you want me to read these out and make the motion?
I can read them for you if you like. It doesn't matter, or you can read them. Sure.
Okay, so the first motion is for Molly Weingart. She would be a second grade teacher in a one-year position. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Will you please take the roll call?
Jessica Brown,
Yes.
Kelly Huber,
Yes.
Mike Rabideau,
Yes?
Forrest Carter,
Yes.
and Jennifer Hubbard.
Yes.
I have the vote recorded.
Thank you. The second is for Megan Smith. This is for a second grade teacher in a permanent position. I'll make that motion to recommend.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Please take a roll call.
Okay, Mike Rabideau,
Yes?
Forrest Carter,
Yes.
Jennifer Hubbard,
Yes.
Jessica Brown,
Yes.
and Kelly Huber.
Yes.
I have that vote recorded.
Thank you. And the third recommendation is for Elizabeth Tong. She will be an ESOL teacher, and this is a new position within the school. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Please take a roll call.
Forrest Carter,
Yes.
Jennifer Hubbard,
Yes.
Jessica Brown,
Abstain.
Kelly Huber,
Yes.
and Mike Rabideau.
Yes,
I have that vote recorded.
thank you. And Bill, Dr. Lupini?
That's all we have on the agenda. Since we have 28 people here or so yet, I'll just say one more time. By the way, while we've been sitting here, we're now up to 235 responses, and 91 of them are from Seabrook Elementary. So those numbers are climbing. Please implore any of your contacts or people who are in attendance, any of your friends who have someone at Seabrook Elementary School in pre-K through 4 to take a look at the email that was sent to them earlier today. It has a very, very important survey about in-person versus the remote learning academy, and where you come down on that. It also includes some questions about transportation if you're coming in person, and if you're choosing the remote learning academy, it has additional questions about the lunch program, which will continue for people who are in a remote situation into the fall. So yeah, people have till next Monday. We'll send out a couple reminders, I'm sure, along the way, but we're getting a great response already on the first afternoon.
Stephanie?
Just if anybody didn't receive the email, maybe they had an email change or don't have their email on file with us, there's a contact link on our website, or you can email me directly and we can forward that information for you. So to you, we want to make sure everybody has it. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Stephanie.
I'd
Thank
like
you
to
for
thank
coming up.
I'd like to thank all my board members, Forrest, Kelly, Jessica, and Jen. We're doing a great job moving forward, and I appreciate you being here. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jess. Have a second, please?
Second.
All right. Wave your hand and we're done. Thank you.